All right, folks, I'm here with a friend of mine, Mr. Serge Ramelli. He's a French photographer living in Paris, France. You may have heard of him. He does a very popular podcast and YouTube channel. His website's over at photosurge.com, and he is the expert or a expert on Lightroom and Photoshop and obviously photography, and you just got to see his work. So I met Serge in person and had dinner with him in Paris, France a couple days ago when I was out there visiting, and Serge agreed to come on the show and talk to us about some of the cool things that are coming out of Adobe with Creative Cloud 2014, as well as what I want to dive into is a little bit into his history and how he was able to generate a really nice income using photography and interior design. So Serge Ramelli, welcome to the show.
Merci beaucoup, Frédéric. Thank you for having me on the show. Bonjour, everybody. I'm happy to be. I've seen this show so many times, so now I'm finally on it. I'm really happy. I'm honored to be there. Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm honored to have you. It's the Mutual Admiration Society. So I'm a big fan of your YouTube channel, and it's the internet.
Yeah, I listen to your podcast in the car, everywhere. It's really cool.
That's cool. Well, thanks for doing that. I appreciate it. All right, Serge, let's dive into this thing. So a couple days ago, Adobe pulled the trigger and released Creative Cloud 2014. Had some cool new features in there. A lot of stuff for designers, but a couple of nuggets in there for photographers. I know you've talked about a couple of these new enhancements on your channel. You want to give us the top line things that what excites you the most about 2014 Creative Cloud?
Well, what excites me the most is I'm a big fan of all the blur filters, the whole new blur technology they came out with. For example, I've been using radial blur for a long time, but there was a big problem with radial blur is that whenever you wanted to put it, the window was so small, you didn't know where it was going to really do anything. And now it's very like real-time in visual. It's really usable, and it even has angle. The whole blur gallery is a big deal. The new they have like a directional blur, which is amazing, where you can follow curves and really make really cool effect. That's something I really like because I use that a lot. I use a lot of blurs, and I love the new blurs. I've already been using the new blurs for making composites, like a bokeh effect behind people and stuff that I really like. Yep. So that was really exciting. The other thing I liked a lot that what they came out with is the whole new selection where you can select with what's in focus or what's not in focus. So if you've got somebody taken which is sharp and the background is got out of focus, a bit of a bokeh, well, just in a couple of clicks you can have a basic selection. You can refine it, and that's really really cool because I do I do a lot of composites. I love composites, and so it's just a new way to select. So now you can just go 1.4 on your 50 millimeter. You take something and make sure the background is blurry and it's like selected basically. So that's really cool. And this new thing, one thing I've been using a lot is the content aware technology, because graffitis to be taken out of walls, things, garbage can out of beautiful cityscapes. They added this new tone feature where you can basically use a patch tool to erase something, but before you had sort of like gradients, splashes. It was not very nice what was left over, and now they made something where the toning of I made a few tests. For example, on a photo, I showed this in my last podcast. There was a lot of graffitis, and with the older version, whenever I would drag and drop a graffiti on a clean plate, I would get smears. I don't know what you call that. It was just like it was not good looking. And now it's like almost perfect from the first time. So this content awareness technology that I use a lot, because unfortunately, I think the biggest trouble we have as photographers is to communicate a message in your photo. Basically, anything that contributes to the message you want to put in your photo is important, and everything which is distracting needs to be taken out. So that's why I like to make landscape of Paris where there's no one there, because I just want to communicate one thing, and one thing only, which is the pyramid of the Louvre or the Eiffel Tower or a bridge there. I don't want to have a big truck there. So being able to have tools that enables you to erase stuff. And doing it better and better, because content aware was already a big jump. Like I do lots of panels, and I use content aware to put in the missing clouds. Because when you put up your panel, you always have like some missing parts. Yeah. That was already a lot of saving a lot of time. But now with this new technology, it's really like one step further. So that was that, and there was something else which I think I forgot that I really liked.
Well, they also came out with the Lightroom Mobile for iPhone too, right?
Oh yeah, but that was already about a month ago. I already used that a lot. Oh, one funny thing that I did with that. It's a funny story. I'm an interior design photographer, and that's been what I've been doing for many years. And I've turned over to my son that business. He's been doing most of the shots, but he's learning Lightroom. So the other day I was in Florida, and he was shooting a hotel in Paris, and so he was shooting the hotel, retouching on his Lightroom catalog. And we were syncing with my iPad. I was traveling, but with the Wi-Fi, I could see in real time what he was doing, and I was correcting his white balance as I was traveling, because he was shooting for the client. Because he was making mistakes on the white balance, white balance is very key on interior design. So I was correcting on the iPad, and in real time, it would correct his photos. So that was a really cool feature.
He was viewing and correcting on his iPad, and you were somewhere else, and you were making edits.
He was on his desktop.
He was on his desktop. Okay.
And I was seeing like almost real time how he was correcting the photo, and we were basically retouching the photos at the same time. And I was correcting the raw files, and just with my finger, I added a bit more magenta, blah blah blah. Just corrected the white balance, and because I kept explaining him that it was that the walls were too blue or too this or too that. So instead of explaining him, I just took my iPad and I corrected all the white balance on all the photos, and he could see it on his screen in real time. That was amazing, because that's what I do. I supervise his retouching this way now. So I have basically his Lightroom catalog is been synced with my iPad. That's how we work instead of my Lightroom catalog.
That's great. Anything else in Creative Cloud that stuck out for you?
Well, there was this whole all these new apps that they make also, which the ink thing with the ruler and stuff. That's I think is really cool. Yeah. Because I like to draw on the iPad, but the pen that I have and the whole technology, it looks like a little bit of a finger. And the way they made it a Bluetooth, so there is a better pressure sensitivity. I think that's going to be a really big deal. I couldn't buy it because they don't deliver to France. They only deliver in the US. But I had a friend who bought it in the US who's going to ship it to me because I really want to try that.
And I would do that too. Let me know. I'll buy it and ship it over to you. Easy.
All right, then. No, that's already on the way. But what else? Yeah, I just love their new apps. And and also one thing that I love is the warp distortion thing. They have this new where you can make like a warp distortion map of a building, and you can just squeeze it and change it like Inception how you want it. Yeah. That's really cool. I think it's called a warp perspective, and that I use a lot because I do a lot of when you make panels with buildings, they like I did a big panel of San Francisco the other day, and I had the buildings where very close to Union Square, and the buildings are very tall in the U.S. and I always like to have the buildings very straight. And this new tool is for architect type of photography is amazing. That was one of the features that I really liked.
There's all kinds of you gotta love that. I was talking to someone the other day about Adobe and Apple. I think we're talking specifically about Apple and Aperture and Final Cut, and show things like this and the advancements that they keep making and kind of sharpening the blade for content creatives and and photographers and compositing artists. They just keep going, and it's like, for example, with Aperture, we haven't seen an update in forever, but Adobe keeps rolling forward and pushing this stuff out, and it seems like they care a lot about the creative professional, right? And it's
true. I mean, that's totally true. I've been using Photoshop since I think it was version 6, and it's not just sometimes you can say, oh, I'm not going to update because I'm using most of the update that they do, and that's why I love the Creative Cloud thing, because you just pay every month, you don't have to worry about updates. I think I know a lot of people don't have subscriptions that they feel trapped by something, but for me it's only been freedom. I mean, it was just so expensive before, $1,000 there, $1,000 here, Now you just $10 for Lightroom and Photoshop, that's like 2 Starbucks, it's like
you're done. Yeah. Yeah,
It's
that's amazing.
crazy.
Well, Serge, you mentioned your son and that he was doing interior photography and that sort of thing. And I know from we were talking about at dinner the other night that that's how you got started. So
That's right.
I want to take this opportunity to one of the discussions that we have on TWiP from time to time is how photographers can make money in this business. And it seems like it's been a sad song for a lot of photographers that there's no money to be made and people are stealing images and blah 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 blah. Can you demystify how you got started in interior photography,
Sure.
or how's that work?
The thing is, well, I started because I was working. I mean, I started first by selling websites to hotels. My brother had created a web agency, and I was selling websites to them. But what happened is this: I started taking photos of Paris. And then one guy, because the way I used to sell the websites to the hotels, where I was taking the yellow pages, and then I was looking, and I was just looking at their websites. So I was just, taking, for example, all the hotels of the 5th district, and I would call them up and do just a salesman talk. But I was really going on the photos. So most of them had like really bad photos and I would go for the hotels or restaurants which had bad photos. You could tell just from bookings.com, from this type of website, where you can see the photos of everybody, So I would isolate them, then I would Google them, find their phone number, and call them up, and said, we can make nice photos, we can make nice websites. So first I was saying websites, but then I started doing this photo of Paris, and I started using all the technology, the digital blending, HDR. I was like watching Scott Kelby's shows. I was like watching every tutorial you could find on the planet, every single technology, plugins, whatever technology was there to make the photos pop. I was trying to be at the top of my art. So my photos, I had a very dramatic sky. That's what I have today, but I was retouching even more then. More that I grow old as a photographer, less I'm retouching, but that's my own personal game. But at the time, I was doing lots of HDR, lots of adding clouds, and one day, a hotel manager came to see me, says, I saw your stuff on Paris, it's like so much, he calls that emotional, says it's so much emotion. And the guy owned 11 four-star hotels in Paris. His name is Philippe Vos. His group is called the Elegancia Hotel, and he was coming out with a new hotel called the Hidden Hotel, and he says, you know what, why don't you come and do some photos of the hotel, because I'm doing a challenge. I'm getting 5 photographers and the one who makes the nicer photo of one room will win the whole deal. The whole deal was $7,000.
Nice.
It was like $7,000 to shoot the entire hotel. And I went there and I did HDR. I shot an HDR shot of the room, and that's the only time in my life I did HDR as interior design. I'll explain why later. But I did. The theme of the hotel was nature. It was like a 4-star hotel, but like organic, green nature. So there was a lot of like for example, where the thing where you wash your hand looks like dry mud, but it was really nice and very rough wood and like chalet type of thing. And I don't know, it just came out very special in HDR, completely different from everything. And all the judges of the thing, they went for it because it was HDR. So I got the job. I made the whole hotel in HDR. And then this guy got me to shoot 4 or 5 hotels, but he was very known, and it just started like that's how it started. But it all started because he saw my photo, which was very retouch of Paris. And one thing I think that I'm doing right, and I think that's one thing the photographers are not, some that want to get started are not doing right, is that I always would put only 5 to 6 photos per category, but they were exceptional. Like I don't have 100 photos out there. I have like, if you go to SergeRamelliPhotos.com, it's like my professional portfolio. Each section's got 20 photos, not one more, not one less. If I add one photo, I take one out because it's got to be the best of the best of the best of the best. And so that's what created impact on this guy. Now, the truth is, I got these guys because I was selling them website, and I was really a good salesman, and I signed up 360 hotels in Paris in about 2 years for website. So I knew all of them, and when they found out I was doing photos and they saw my stuff, they just started ordering. Everybody wanted me to shoot their hotel. It was like, I just, I had to turn down a lot of job. And so but then somebody else came along. I had a friend who was very shy, did not want to call hotels. He was really good. He had a website. I knew what he could do, and he was like, he could hardly pay his rent, and he was about to get evicted because he was not paying his rent, and he was really a gifted photographer. And I told him, I said, you know what? you're going to apply the same technology that I did with getting my first job as webmasters to you finding your first client. So we made a game, and I told him this: you're going to make a list of 50 hotels which you think don't have amazing photos. You're going to call them up, and all you're going to say is, hello, my name is David. I'm a professional photographer. I've got a really great technology, the latest Photoshop and Lightroom technology that I master, and I can really do some great photos for you. And here's what I've done. He had already a couple of stuff to show. So here's my website. And I said, this is a game. You don't stop. You don't go to lunch. You don't do nothing until you've called these 50 people. And it's going to take you, we calculated about 4 to 5 hours. And I promise you, if you do that twice, so that means 100 hotel, you will have more job than you can think of. He did that, and he's been working for 3 years now. He never had to make one phone call again. He did it twice, 50 hotels. Out of the first 50, he got 2 hotels. The next 50, he got 3 hotels. But then they had family and other hotels. And he updated his website. And now he's making a very good limit. He told me he made $12,000 last month as an interior design photographer, and he's really happy. And the thing is, and this is something you have. I give you an example. There is a hotel in Opera, in the neighborhood of Opera, and that's true for every restaurant and hotel in the world. Mm-hmm. That hotel was making decent money from his internet website, like 25,000 euros per month, which is not bad. But this is Paris. This is like a 77 million tourists coming every year. Yeah. And we redid all these photos like with the latest Lightroom, my latest technology on Lightroom. He went from $25,000 to $100,000 of booking from his website. So he closed down all the other websites which were taking 20 to 30% commission, like Expedia, Bookings.com, and putting everything on his own website. So he made, just because we changed the photos, he paid me $7,000 for the photos. He's been making $75,000. At least economizing about $15,000 to $20,000 of commissions per month since that moment. That's insane. And stories like this, I have had so many. You see, we live in a world of image. And I know that everybody's got DSLR, but not everybody masters Lightroom and Photoshop. And that's the key. In today's industry, you need to be at the top of Lightroom and at the top of Photoshop, because you can say, I'm a purist, I want to get it right into the camera, I don't like heavy retouch stuff, but you're dealing with people which are doing that, and these photos do create emotional impact. Yeah. I think, Scott Kelby, you should tell that story, which I find is very revealing, where you take 10 photos, one of them is an HDR, and you show that to non-photographers. Most of them will pick up the HDR as their favorite photo, because it's got something special about it. Right. You show the same 10 photos to professional photographer, and they will not pick the HDR one. Say, what's that? That's like too retouched, Because I understand, as a photographer, we want to go, and I have the same phenomena going on for me. I want to get it as best as I can in the camera. I want to come back 12 times, get the right light, and just get it right. Some people have this thing, but in the world of commercial, forget that. In the world of commercial, all that matters is the emotional impact, whether it's heavily Photoshop or not, and you have to go for it. Yeah. So if you have, if you do a website with Squarespace for $8 per month, I love Squarespace. Yeah. I've done my portfolio with them, and you just put out your best work. Please edit your stuff. Even if you have like 3 photos which are good, just put these 3 photos, because if you got 2 that's not good, you're not gonna, because the person is gonna be scared that, like your wedding photographer, and you got like 5 amazing wedding photos, but
Serge, you there?
Yeah,
All right,
I
good.
don't know what happened.
You were still rolling. It's probably bandwidth.
Yeah, I live in the suburbs of Paris, a bit in the countryside, and I don't have a good internet.
No, no, I hear you. I hear you. I kept it rolling so that we could just keep going. So you were saying where were you? So you were
Yeah, I
talking
was just
about
saying, I was talking about this is really a marketing world,
right,
and so
right.
uh,
Yeah, just pick it up
my
there.
advice, if you're starting, just make a simple website with your best work, and start calling people that need photos. Everybody needs photo because every business is being done by the web today, and so all the restaurants and all the hotels and all the flower shops and everything you see around, they need photos. Everybody needs photos, and if you would just make a game of calling 50 of these people, I promise you, even if you're the worst salesman on the planet, but you've got a good portfolio, by the end of this 50 phone call, you at least one or two paid job.
Love it.
And so people has been asking me also, but how do you do if you've got no portfolio? Like I want to get into interior design, but I never shot a restaurant or a hotel.
Yeah.
And I did that with another guy. What I told him is okay, go into a nice hotel, just go on bookings.com, find a nice hotel that you have, and just tell them, I want to make a couple of photos of your hotel. It's for free if you want to use them. I'm just trying to build my portfolio. And just go out there, show what you can do with your camera, your Lightroom, and your Photoshop. Check out my interior design photography tutorial, for example.
Yeah. There you go.
And try these techniques on that. I've got also a lot of free tutorials on interior design on my my YouTube channel. If you go to playlist, you've got just interior design playlist with at least 2 or 3 stuff where I give some of my techniques for free.
That's cool. Now your YouTube channel, how many videos do you have up there, free tutorials?
132.
Jeez, 132, and they're growing. You keep making them, right?
Yeah, twice a week, Tuesdays, and it needs a lot of inspiration. But I'm shooting all the time, and I'm creating all the time. So when I'm shooting, I'm saying, oh, I took that photo. I want to explain to the people how I took that one, and boom, here you go,
Love it. Now, Serge, you have a course called Photoshop for Photographers, right? So tell me about that course and how's it going and I mean, obviously you built it for photographers, but what's it about specifically?
Well, it's one of my bestseller. The thing is, I learned a lot from Scott Kelby because I love how Scott trains people, and I even so I share tutorials. I advise anyone to become a Kelby One subscriber because I am, and I think it's awesome. But the way what I did is I don't know. I tried to explain Photoshop like I would do to a friend, nicely in simple words, and I try to use words that everybody understands. I'm not trying to get technical. And one thing that I do, which I think works pretty well, is I don't explain a feature for a feature. It's always part of a project. So I start, it's like, compositing or retouching projects or portraits retouching. So I try to figure out a way to explain Photoshop to people who's never opened Photoshop. We're starting off with very simple projects. So it's like 6 hours of video, and at the end, it's about 20 videos, and at the end, the whole idea is you master the basic tools for photographer, and even if you master the basics of layers and masks, you can just jump into the HDR section, the black and white section, the digital blending section, the Lumini mask section, the whatever. It's broken down in different themes, but every chapter is a project, and I think that's what has been so successful for me, because honestly, it's been selling pretty well. Is because it's I don't like when I follow tutorial. Well, it's just like I've seen tutorials on After Effects where you learn to use a filter, but the end result is not amazing, or is like sort of boring. It's just it is a demonstration just to use the filter. So one thing that I try to only use like very nice raw files, very nice projects, so that people, when they're done with it, they can say, "Wow, I created that," and be proud of their creation. And I give them all the raw files. I actually give the raw files. Hope that people will not use it for commercial purposes, but I give them the raw files, and they can just play around with it. They can print it if they want it at home, because it's very good stuff, raw files. But at least they can have a win. They can try and say, "Oh, I did that," And I got over 2,000 people writing me over the last 2 years on my podcast and stuff, And apparently, the way I teach is people are liking it, and so. And these emails is what gets me going. I'm just not trying to show off, but honestly, I did not expect to have such a success. And I think I found a formula of teaching that people seem to like. So I keep on doing it. I love to learn and share. Like, for example, I watched all the new features of Photoshop CC 2014. I watched all the tutorials, and then I did my own tutorials with my own photos and posted them the next day. So I learn and I share. I spend at least 8 hours to 10 hours per week watching tutorials on Kelby1, Lynda.com, YouTube, and then I do my own stuff.
Yeah. No. So the Photoshop for photographers? How much does that course cost?
That course costs $97, but I think we have a special promotion for people which are on TWiP. It's a $97 course. It's about 5 hours. There's about 40 raw files that you get for free. That's included in the package. 40 raw files because there's panorama, there's digital blending, there's HDR, black and white, and I try to put some of my best raw files in there. And we have a special promotion which is getting it down to about $50 for anybody that follows TWiP with the discount code TWiP.
Just TWiP, and that's what, 40%, right?
That's about 40%. It gets it down to about I would have to calculate, but it's 40%. It's close to $50. It's not. It's a bit more. I'll tell you right now. $97 minus 40% for TWiP. So $97 minus 40%. Yeah, $56.40 exactly.
Nice. Perfect.
So that's like 5-6 hours, 40 raw files, and hopefully a lot of win on Photoshop and getting your Photoshop skills to the next level. And you own the videos. You can drag and drop them on your iPad. They are iPad friendly. And so you have them as a reference forever. You actually own the videos.
Well, thank you for doing that. I appreciate it. That's a pretty steep discount. So
yeah, it's the biggest I've ever gave. So it's the biggest discount. But wanted to partner with you, and yeah.
You got it. Well, Serge, so your websites are photoserge.com, and what's the portfolio website again?
SergeRamelliPhotos.com. Oh, you can, if you go to PhotoSerge, you just click on, there's a big menu. One says Get Started here, and the other one says Tutorials. The best is to go to Tutorials and look for Photoshop. I mean, the whole store is going to be 40% for TWiP. It's every course except what I call the complete package. That discount code is not going to work on the complete.
So that code isn't just for the Photoshop for photographers. It's across the entire store, except for that big one.
All the presets, everything, all the 3D course, the Lightroom courses, the long exposure course, all the black and white, everything.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you very much for doing that.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. Cool. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Serge. I'll let you get on with your evening there. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, or 1:18 in the afternoon here in California.
10:18 p.m. as you say.
Oh, it's time to go out partying. Come on, it's Paris.
Exactly. The night is young, as we say.
All right, Serge. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Sure, no problem. See you, Frederic.
Yep.
Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Bye-bye.